shift, we are joined by Lisa Sykes. She actually spent 13 years in the corporate world before taking voluntary redundancy in 2003. She went from corporate, she actually trained to become a doula, and then started training doulas herself, and then also transitioned into becoming a coach. I'm gonna add Lisa in and we are gonna hear all about it. Good morning and good evening for us.
Yeah, good evening.
So Lisa's all the way in Paris, for anyone that doesn't know, which is very exciting. What time is it there?
Just after 8:30 in the morning. It's still a little bit
Oh,
dark.
it's early for you.
Yeah, it's really early, start of the day. I just caught your intro. It's so
Um,
exciting to be talking to you about this.
I'm going to turn my little timer on and we're going to see what we can get through
We're going to
in
get through
15 minutes.
it.
Right. So tell us, what led you into your corporate job? Because that was straight out of school, wasn't it?
Yeah, so you're right. I did spend 13 years in my corporate job. Honestly, I left school kind of on a whim. I never knew what I wanted to do. I never knew, I didn't go down that path of like, I know what I want to do. So I left school really on a whim saying, actually, I've just had enough of this now. I'm going to go get a job. And the town that I lived in West Yorkshire, in the UK, everybody worked in one of two places. There were two big corporate employees, right? One of them was an insurance company and one of them was a bank. And so I said, I'll just go get a job at one of those places. So I went and got a job at the insurance company in the administration, if you like, just as an admin person, admin clerk, I guess it was called back in the day. This is in 1990. And I just started there and that was it. There was no grand plan. I just went in. And during the course of that 13 years, if we're going to try and condense that down, I put myself in front of as many people as possible and climbed, let's call it the corporate ladder, as quickly as possible. So I ended up in the IT department. I was one of the first female computer programmer back then.
Yeah.
Systems developer. And I was one of the first female ones, and I was like 17 at the time. It was actually a job reserved for people with a graduate degree, and I didn't have one. But I got myself in front of people and I was like, I can do that job. Give me a shout. Give me a chance. And I did. And by the time I'd done my 13 years there, I'd worked in lots of different roles in IT, but I finally finished as a business analyst. Again, a job that on paper I was not supposed to have. Everybody else had degrees, experience, all of this stuff. And I was being flown up and down the country to meetings and so on, basically because I got in front of people.
I love that about your journey. It's proof now, and I think we're heading more down that track, that you don't need a degree to do these
Honestly,
things, to be successful.
Don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but I actually think that the mainstream, if you like, thought process around that is really changing. My husband's an educator, and a lot of the big universities, definitely a lot of the places that have got innovation, they are not looking for the same things anymore. They're looking for people who are creative, innovative, risk takers. And those are the people that they know they want, like, coming through their programs, and the employers, should I say, on the other side, are looking for in their businesses, because those are the people that make shit happen.
100%. And 2 points there. I was talking to my partner the other day, and I am sidetracking. I'm going to come back on track. But about this whole thing, and how they actually say that a lot of the rebels and the ones in school that didn't go off and do the degrees, maybe they were wagging school and things like that, turn out to be the business owners a lot of the time, because they don't want to go down that path. They're not following the rules. They're already thinking very differently. So why, firstly, did you stay in corporate as long as you did? And then what actually, I know you took voluntary redundancy, but why did you take it?
So the reason that I stayed as long as I did was because I think the reason that most people do, security. It was a secure job at the time when I first started. It was a secure job. It was seen as somewhere you could work forever, you had a great pension, you had good benefits, you know, whilst you were there, you had a great salary. And also, honestly, we just had so much fun. I worked in a department that was a lot of fun. I couldn't actually believe I was being paid so much money for doing what I was doing. It, like many times I would go, how am I getting away with this? Because we had a lot of fun as well. So I stayed because I enjoyed it and the benefits were great. But there came a point when the security part, and security is just an illusion really, the security part became into close vision because it started to look like maybe they were going to outsource the department to you know, a different company and things like that. And so there became like this instability. And I think that when things start to shift and change, you start to question things. And that was when, and by this point I was a single mom. I had Emily, my eldest daughter. She was in a private school. I had a mortgage, I had a car, I had all of the financial trimmings that security really is often attached to. But I didn't, I knew that there was more for us. And when this instability came in within the company, I was like, bear in mind, at this point, I'm probably 10 or 11 years in, and this instability lasted for about 2 years for me. And then I was like, I'm out. And I was like, if I don't jump now, I will be one of the people that retire here. And that scared me more than what was on the other side of the unknown. And so that's why I took the redundancy. One day I just walked into my boss's office. Most people were just like riding it out. And I just went into my boss and I was like, I'll take it. I'll do it. I had no idea what I was going to do. I had no idea how I was going to pay the bills. And with the backdrop of, I didn't have a degree. I didn't have all the things that people were still telling me I needed, but I was just like, fuck it. I need to find out because I believe there's something else out there for me, and I believe there's something else out there for Emily as well.
I love that so much, and I think that's why I relate to your story so much, because so many similarities. I took redundancy myself. Like you say, I thought the secure job was a thing, and then you find out, well, actually, even in employment, you can lose your job like that. And it's that wanting more, isn't it? You're like, there is something more. It's like this niggle inside of you that is like, this is good, this pays well, there's a lot of perks, but there is also so much more.
100%.
And I want to lead on to my next point, which is about your doula training, because where the heck did that come? How did you go from corporate to, hey, I'm going to become a doula?
So this is the whole like magic of when you make leaps like this, because without taking the leap from corporate, I wouldn't have ended up as a doula, but there were steps that happened before that that got me to that place, which was I decided when I left corporate, I kind of gave myself space to figure out, like, what do I want to do? How do I want to use my skills? What is really important to me? And I noticed that there was a theme in my life, which was, I know it's really corny, but I love making a difference. I am somebody who loves supporting people and helping people. So what I decided was, I took some time because I had a little bit of space with the redundancy, and I took some time to look at what it was that I wanted to do, even if it wasn't a job, how I wanted to feel, what I wanted my days to feel like in terms of what I was like bringing to the world, essentially. And I took some time and I took some space, and I took some really mind-numbing jobs, which was perfect because I could just think. And I realized that I wanted to be of service. I wanted to make a difference. I didn't want to just be like helping shareholders make more money. And so I ended up looking for jobs that I could take my skill set and make a difference with. And long story short, again, because we're doing this in 15 minutes, I found and applied for a job in a school, and I went to work in education, and I was helping the school do data analysis on the kids that were there to make sure the kids that were maybe going to drop through the cracks didn't drop through the cracks, probably a bit like a kid like me, right? And basically the first day that I walked into that job, the worst paid job of all the jobs that I'd taken, but the one that felt like it made the most difference and fit with the life that I was trying to create, I set eyes on the man that I would end up marrying, literally the first day. And so without that jump, I wouldn't have met him. I met him, and during the course of our time together, we've been married for 17 years this year, we had more children. And during the course of that like transformational experience, that was when the seed was sown to become a doula. I became somebody who was really passionate about birth and women and like that completely transformative experience of birth and motherhood. And that is how it started. So it all is interconnected, actually. Without making that leap, I wouldn't have met Keith. Without meeting Keith, I wouldn't have had more children. Without having more children, because I thought I was done. And then next news, I'm following another passion of supporting people and helping people. And I trained to be a doula.
I just love your story so much. Again, so many similarities to my own. It's actually quite scary, but I know we've talked a lot, so we've got the same beliefs about how everything is so connected and linked in, and it's like, that's why it's trusting that little niggle, because it just leads you to that next step, even if you don't know entirely what it is. When I left corporate, I was so similar to you in that I took a very low paid job and I was earning less than I ever had.
Me too.
But it connected me to so much more. And I just
Me
knew.
too. Exactly the same.
It's that feeling, because I remember thinking when I was in my corporate job, I just want to wake up and feel excited. I just want to wake up and feel excited about the work that I get to do. That was it at that point. I don't want to feel anxious anymore. I want to wake up and I just want to feel excited. And it just snowballs from there when you're brave.
Yeah.
So I want to know, what is a major mindset shift that has really either sort of starting business or in those early days that you really had to get through to get to where you are?
So I think that the most important and monumental mindset shift, and it's so interesting because I was literally talking about this to my little girl, who's not so little, she's 16, last night as she laid in bed biting her nails with anxiety about tests and exams and things that were happening coming down the tracks for her at school right now. She's in that really important phase of school where it's all about the grades and all about the performance and all about those things. And I said to her, she was like, Mom, I got this grade back on this test and it wasn't what I was hoping. And I'm like, why is it not working? I'm doing all the things. And I was like, Hebe, her name's Hebe. I was like, Hebe, the things that you are doing right now and that you did last week and in the last few weeks, you are not going to get the results of them until further down the line. You've got to remember that this ain't Amazon Prime, baby. You take steps today for you in 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years time. And sometimes you'll get evidence just like that. And sometimes you're going to have to wait for it. And I was like, just because you can't see that what you are doing behind the scenes is working right now doesn't mean that it's not working. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, that delayed gratification piece. That delayed gratification is what helped me to see that I could jump from corporate to quote unquote nothing without a plan, without really knowing, but just knowing the feeling, to being like, what I'm doing now is helping a future version of me. I'm not really sure how, and some of it isn't really clear, but it is. I believe that it is always. And like, what, the same thing as you taking that job that was literally the worst paid of the 3 jobs that I was offered, that all would have given me the feeling, but something inside was like, that's the one, And so the biggest mindset shift and the biggest piece of advice that I could ever have given to myself then, and I gave to my daughter last night, and I would give to anybody listening, is you might not see instant results, but it's working.
I love that so much. And that is one of the big thing I've learned is it's planting that seed, isn't it? Because it's, you got to water it, you got to take care of it, and eventually you're going to see this big, beautiful plant. But until then, you've got to keep going and being consistent and doing the things. And We've basically almost nailed it, but I just want to take a moment to say your daughter and your children are so freaking lucky to have a mum like
Oh,
you.
thank you.
I think, being able to say that to your daughter and say, okay, you're not seeing it right now, but you will. I mean,
Absolutely. And to be able to also say to her and her reflect back to me, she was like, Mom, I know that it doesn't actually matter. She said, I know that all that really matters is that I'm happy. And I know that you know that. She said, but I can still feel the pressure. And so the other part of that is knowing that when you feel that pressure, it's not because you're not getting it right, you're not doing it right. It's the air that we breathe. That's why people believe the things that they believe, because it's all around us all of the time. And for you to be able to almost like kick back against that and rebel against that, it's not always easy. It's not always easy. I catch myself sometimes being influenced by the outside world. It's impossible not to be. It is the air that we breathe. But being able to come back to that over and over again is how you stay true to you, and how you create a life that feels good for you and that isn't someone else's idea of success, someone else's story of the right way.
couldn't agree more. And I think this is the stuff we need to teach in schools, I feel, because that's what you need to realize, when you're young and you're going out and doing a degree just because you feel like you should. It's actually what makes you happy, or what do you think will make you happy. So we're going to wrap up, and I'm going to throw a random question on you, just to put a bit of pressure under. I know you're great with. What's one really big thing that you did that was like, holy fuck, maybe I shouldn't have done that, but I've learned the greatest lesson from? What springs to mind?
Like, that I don't believe, like, I believe that failure is a resource.
Totally.
So there's nothing that I can really think of that I would say I shouldn't have done that. But you know what? If I was to really try and pull something out, the only regrets I ever have are when I've not done something sooner. When I've ended up eventually doing something and being like, why didn't I just do that sooner? It's more, when I've not got myself out of a situation I was unhappy in sooner. That,
Yeah.
whilst it's not a failure in and of itself, because we're always exactly where we need to be, and we can alchemize that and we can turn that into a lesson. If I was to really pull on any regrets, it's always been, why didn't I do it sooner?
Yeah, I love that too. And it is a balance, isn't it? Because I agree. I can't think of any regrets in my life, because like you say, you're always where you're meant to be. It always leads you and you always learn from it. But that's a good one, because I think looking back, I could have always done it sooner, but it's really just trusting the timing, isn't it? That you're where you need to be.
Always.
And if you feel that niggle, just push go.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us live. You know that I just think you're amazing and I love you so much. And if anyone wants to check out Lisa Sykes, she is the no bullshit coach. And
yeah. And thank you so much for asking me, darling. I love you to pieces. I know I always feel like I'm talking to like another version of me when we're chatting, because not just the similarities, but the values and everything. And I'm so excited for you.
Oh, you're amazing.
All right, love ya.
Thank you, Lisa. Love you,
Bye,
love.
darling.
Bye.
Ciao.